Hi guys, so I'm going to very quickly show you how to use a for loop or a loop to run code, a repeated amount of code very quickly. Okay, so again you have a document, you should be typing along with me, it should be lesson 3 exercises, and the first thing you want to do is import your turtle and then you want to name it. Okay, so this time I'm going to name it C. You name it something different, but I'm going to name my turtle C. Right? And then I'm also going to tell the speed to be 20 in this case because I want it to actually run pretty quickly. Now, a for loop, we're going to be using a loop called a for loop. The structure of a for loop goes like this. So you say for I in range, and you put parentheses, and then you tell the loop how many times you want it to run. Okay, so let's say that I want it to run 5 times. Okay, and there's a colon on the outside of that, right? And this little thing inside here, you could put anything. You could put any like placeholder here for, you could say even a word for times in range 5, for x in range 5. It's just traditional to use I, but it doesn't really matter what goes in there. You just have to have some sort of letter. But for your first time through, it would be a little bit easier if you just used I. If you get more advanced, you can use anything that you want. But it has to be like the name of a variable. It can't be a number there. So for I in range 5, let's say that I want the turtle to do a circle of like 100 radius. And then let's say that I want it to turn right by, now let's see, 360 divided by 5, let's see what that is, so 72. So if I have it turn right by 72, these circles are going to go all the way around 360. Okay, so if we look at that, you'll see that you have this like pattern that goes all the way, it fills up the entire 360 circle. Okay, you could do a different one, and I'm going to actually up my speed to like 50. I could say, for I in range 6, I want it to do a circle that's a little smaller, like a circle with 60 radius, and I want it to go, what's 360 divided by 6? 120, I think. Okay, so I would do this bigger circle, and you could do a smaller circle inside. Oh, it actually went around. Oh, it's right. It looped around itself, like it drew on itself twice. So it like drew 3 circles and then it did 3 more. And that's just because of the numbers that I chose. So the big takeaway that I want you to see right here is that when you use a for loop, like I've done right here, you can do repeated actions over and over again. Okay, and it depends on like how often you want it to run. So I'm choosing numbers that went like the range number right here and the number that it turns. I'm choosing numbers that multiply out to 360 because I want it to go all the way around. I don't necessarily have to do that. Like if I had said turn right by 90, let me put this in comments here for a second, then this would look a little bit differently. Okay, and it kind of it did 4 circles and then it drew over 1, okay, or actually drew over 2, right, because it went around 6 times. If I wanted to close my circle, if I wanted to color my circles in, I could say C dot begin fill, okay, and then I could set a color, C dot color, and I could say, this is one of my favorite colors, Dodger blue. And then outside of my circle, I could say C dot end fill. Okay, and when I do that, oh, I should put this in quotation marks, that's right. By the way, and actually I only need 4 of these because I know that that actually, 90 times 4 is 360, so that actually will, okay, and then they all fill in. All right, and that's because I did my begin fill before I started my for loop, and I did my end fill after I started my for loop. So here is all the 4 circles there. I tell it to begin fill before it starts, and I tell it to end fill when it ends. Okay, And now if it's in a loop, it would be really difficult to just do to color one of the circles because it creates all 4 of them and then it ends the fill. One thing that I did not mention is when you make a loop, like let's say that I want to make, I'll give you the first one here. Let's say that I want to make a square or a triangle. So for I in range 3, I want to set the number for the amount of sides. When I have a colon and I press return, the next line is indented in, okay, or it's tabbed in. So if you see up on your computer keyboard on the upper left, you'll see a tab, and that's equal to 4 spaces on your keyboard. You don't want to use 4 spaces on your spacebar because it actually ends up being a little screwy. I don't know, it's really annoying, the spacing. So you can hit tab here. What I also do is I will end up going back to the line and hitting return so that it automatically tabs it in, okay? Everything tabbed in, you can see there's a little gray faint line right here. Everything tabbed in is part of the loop. And everything that is not tabbed in, like line 19 here, is not part of the loop, okay? And I could have done more things in the loop if I wanted to, but this is how we just run the loop right now, okay? So right here, if I want something in the loop, I could tell it to, so to make a triangle, you want to tell it to first make a side of the triangle. So by doing that, you could say either forward or backward. I typically say forward, c.forward. And then I give it the length of the sides that I want. So let's say I want to make a little tiny triangle and I want it 20 pixels, the length of the side to be 20 pixels, okay? And let me do a clear command between here. Right, and then after I make the side length, and again, notice that when I press enter, here, it goes again to an indented line. So I can go C dot right. You could also do left if you wanted to. You just want to be consistent with it. I typically do right. Now, to get a triangle, the way you can do it, if you don't want to do any calculations yourself and you want the computer to do it, just take 360, which is the amount of degrees in a full turn, and divide it by the amount of sides. That's 3, okay? So here it's going to make these 4 circles, and then it's going to make a tiny little triangle. All right, and it's still in blue. I didn't tell it to fill it, but the blue is still set from line 13. And that's kind of like the exercise right here, except so you can copy and paste this into this exercise below, but I think the only thing that you have to change is the forward amount, and then you have 1. Most of these you can copy and paste and modify. They're not very difficult at all. Okay, so that's as much as we're going to go over with a loop today. We can go over more a little bit later on, but to use them to create geometric shapes very quickly is the whole point of using a loop, is that you don't have to like do the commands 4 times in a row. You just tell it to repeat a certain amount of commands. And I could have any amount of things here. Typically I only have 2 commands in the loop when drawing figures, because it's a side and then a turn. But I could have a ton of things here. I could have like 20 commands being looped repeatedly. All right? And that's it. So you're just going to go on to the exercises. Each of them are worth 20 points, and you're going to look at all the things that you need to do. Some of them are colored and some of them aren't. So just pay attention to that. Okay?